Hello and welcome to Finextra. I'm Hannah Wallace and today we're in Antwerp for the Infosys Finacle Conclave 2018. With me now is Sanat Rao, Chief Business Officer and Global Head of Infosys Finacle, and we're going to be discussing the theme of the event, Accelerate Digital. Hello Sanat, thank you very much for taking the time to speak with us today.
It's great to be here, Hannah, and thank you for coming to Accelerate and Finacle Conclave 2018.
Now, the theme of the event is certainly contemporary, Accelerate Digital. So could you run me through the thinking behind it?
So I think when we consider different options, it was very apparent that for banks today, digital is absolutely central to their agenda. However, what we found is that where banks differ is not about whether to do a digital transformation. It's in terms of the sharpness of their vision and in terms of how they want to embark on that journey, right? In essence, how they will translate the vision into action. And what we felt is that the way we could help them is to show more clarity and help them on the path towards their digital transformation, and therefore the theme Accelerate Digital.
All right, and today's multi-dimensional change makes business model transformation a strategic priority for banking leaders. So with this, what recommendations would you share with your clients?
So if you look at the way banking is changing, let's take a step back and look at traditional banking. The way a bank looked at its role in the past was essentially across three main components. One was to manufacture products. The second was to identify customers whom they wanted to sell those products to. And the third was to distribute the products, right? That is changing. So if you look at those three components, they were in the past a very tightly coupled vertical value chain. Today what we're finding is that it's getting more fragmented. So it's moving from a vertical pipeline model to a fragmented value chain and eventually to a platform model. And I think as the banks move towards a platform model, the whole role that the bank plays will undergo a big change. Let me just explain that. As far as the manufacturer is concerned, banks are no longer going to be restricted to just manufacturing their own products, right? That still remains an important part, but customers like you and me want a lot more, right? So banks today are collaborating with other parties. They're expanding the portfolio of their offerings. It's also very apparent that there are more and more banks who compete in certain areas but choose to collaborate in certain areas, right? And therefore, essentially what's happening is the whole portfolio of offerings is dramatically increasing. The second is that banks need to fight very hard to retain customer loyalty. Therefore, it's not just a question of making more and more banking products available. Customers like you and me, when we work with our bank, we want them to help with our lifestyle, right? And therefore, making products available beyond just traditional banking products is what banks are looking at. Last but not the least, I think is with the emergence of open banking, it's allowing banks to leverage technology and leverage the change in regulation to make a whole host of other capabilities available to banks. So that's as far as the manufacturer is concerned. If you then go to the layer in between, which brings the products to the customers, matches the two, we're finding a whole host of changes here. Banks have moved from a situation where they used to mass market everything, and therefore a product used to be available to all of their customer base. They then moved into a situation where they tried to segment customers and make specific products available to specific segments of customers. And today, that is further sharpening because banks want to then try and identify specific customers and make the products and services as tailored to them as possible. And therefore, what we're finding is that in this matchmaking process, there's a need for the banks to contextualize their offerings. There's a need for banks to understand what the customer wants. There's a need for the banks to leverage the insights that they have. All of that makes the matchmaking a much more specific exercise. You then move to the front end. Traditionally, banks had only their channels, right? So they had the branch traditionally, then they moved to the internet banking, mobile, and so on. So bank-owned channels. What's happening clearly is that with the proliferation of new technology, more and more new channels are coming in. And the buzzword today, and I think it's going to be around for a while, is with the capabilities that APIs are offering, right? It's going to allow banks to look at a whole host of assisted and non-assisted channels, which will allow them to distribute products away from the bank-owned channels. And I think there are analyst studies to show that over a period of time, we are not far away where the transactions that the banks will distribute from non-bank-owned channels will actually exceed the number of transactions that come from the bank-owned channels. So we see a big change across all of the three layers, and that's what really excites us about the business model transformation that's happening.
And finally, how does Finacle help banks transition towards the platform business model?
Again, let me start from back to front. So at the back we had our core banking, payments, trade, and so on. Today we enable banks to collaborate with third parties, jointly innovate and create jointly created products through the capability of API and more openness for them to bring non-banking products available, right? So that becomes the extended capability on the manufacturer side as far as that's concerned. On the middle layer, where the products that are manufactured at the back are match-maked with the customers, we've at Conclave 2018, we've announced the launch of the Finacle Digital Engagement Hub. And essentially what that allows is, exactly as I explained earlier, it allows banks to create a more contextualized offering for their clients. And in that layer, what we've done is that we've created an ecosystem of fintechs and third-party applications, right? So we've announced the launch of the Finacle App Store, which is a marketplace of a whole host of fintechs that we are onboarding, who allow for niche capabilities to be made available through the digital engagement layer. And that provides a much greater choice to clients. And as I said earlier, we allow the banks to distribute them through bank-owned channels and third-party channels. And as a result, the entire manner in which customers like you and me engage with our banks is going to undergo a paradigm change. So we see a lot of action from the manufacturer at the back end, to the engagement in the middle layer, and ultimately the experiences the customers are going to enjoy at the front end.
Fantastic. Sanat, this has been great. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you for coming.
And thank you for watching.